I always thought that marriage was supposed to be a solid partnership. My wife, Lisa, and I tied the knot 5 years ago with the kind of promise that felt unbreakable. We had our ups and downs, sure, but nothing could prepare me for the shock that would come crashing down on our lives. Lisa was always a bit of a diva, loud, opinionated, and demanding, but I loved her fiery spirit. We lived in a cozy house in a suburban neighborhood, complete with a white picket fence and a backyard where we'd often grill and enjoy some time together. My friends would joke that I was the luckiest guy, and for a while I believed them. It all felt picture perfect until the hints of trouble started to show. At first, it was subtle. Lisa had gotten more involved in her work at the local food magazine. She started coming home late, claiming she was meeting chefs for interviews, which sounded reasonable. I was supportive, thinking she was just passionate about her job. But over time, a nagging feeling crept in. She seemed distant, often scrolling through her phone, sharing inside jokes with colleagues I didn't know. My suspicions began to multiply, but I pushed them aside, convincing myself that I was overthinking things. Then came the day I stumbled upon her phone while she was in the shower. It was just a quick peek, nothing sinister. At least that's what I told myself. But what I found sent my heart plummeting. Text messages filled with flirty banter and emojis exchanged with someone named Nick. My stomach twisted as I read through their conversations, realizing they were more than just friends. Nick was a local chef who had recently gained some fame for his pop-up restaurant. The same chef Lisa had been raving about for weeks. I felt as if the ground beneath me had shifted. Confusion morphed into rage and betrayal. I had always provided for her, supported her dreams, and this was how she repaid my loyalty. I took a deep breath, trying to calm my racing heart. I knew I had to confront her, but I wasn't prepared for the storm that would follow. When Lisa emerged from the shower, I confronted her. The fight was explosive. At first, she played innocent, claiming it was just harmless fun. "Oh, come on, it's just texting, you're overreacting," she exclaimed as if I were the one with the problem. The anger in my chest ignited further. I hurled the words back at her like daggers. "Harmless? Do you call flirting with another man harmless?" She backtracked, trying to find excuses, saying I was neglecting her while I was busy with work too, that it was my fault for not understanding her needs. I felt like I was losing my mind. How could she twist this back on me? I had always been there for her, even during my own tough moments. The confrontation left me shaken. I paced the kitchen, my mind racing. I thought of the promises we made, the dreams we shared, and now they felt like ashes. I felt betrayed and heartbroken, as if the foundation of my life had crumbled away. I needed to think clearly to figure out what I wanted to do next. Did I fight for her, or did I let this betrayal consume me? While I was lost in these emotions, a thought struck me. If she wanted to taste the passion of another man, I could show her a different side of me. I would channel this pain into something constructive. I would become the best cook I could be and keep her from ever tasting my food again. After all, she had betrayed our kitchen, and I was determined to serve up a plate full of revenge. As the days passed, I started my journey to become a better cook. I scoured the internet for recipes, watched countless cooking shows, and practiced in my kitchen. I felt revitalized, honing my skills while the thoughts of her infidelity pushed me forward. I was no longer going to be the husband she took for granted. I was going to show Lisa what she was missing. Little did I know that this culinary journey would lead to unforeseen consequences, but that's a tale for another time. As I dove into my culinary transformation, I became obsessed with honing my skills. Each day was a new adventure in the kitchen. I started with simple recipes, pasta, stir-fries, and roasted vegetables, but my confidence grew as I tackled more complex dishes. I began to watch cooking tutorials by renowned chefs, from Gordon Ramsay's fiery style to Anne Garton's comforting approach. I wanted to absorb it all. The kitchen quickly became my sanctuary, a place where I could channel my anger and hurt into something productive. Lisa noticed my newfound passion. At first, she was intrigued. "Wow, you're really getting into cooking," she said one evening, peering over my shoulder as I sautéed garlic and onions. I felt a surge of pride. I wanted to impress her, but it was bittersweet. My motivation was not just to impress, it was to prove a point. I wanted to show her that I could be the chef she fantasized about, but I wasn't doing it for her approval anymore. I was doing it for myself. As the weeks went by, I meticulously crafted dishes that would make a Michelin star chef proud. I experimented with flavors, textures, and plating, something I had never worried about before. I even started baking, creating decadent desserts that were far from the basic cakes and cookies I used to make. Layered chocolate torts, rich cheesecakes, and flaky pastries became my signature. The thrill of creating something beautiful and delicious fueled me, and I found solace in the act of cooking. One weekend, I decided to host a dinner party, inviting a few close friends, my chance to showcase my skills. I prepared an elaborate three-course meal, complete with a perfectly seared duck breast, a seasonal vegetable ratatouille, and a rich chocolate fondant for dessert. I wanted to impress not only my friends but also myself, and I did just that. As my friends complimented my food, I felt a sense of validation. This was my revenge against Lisa, my way of reclaiming my identity. But then, something unexpected happened. During the dinner, one of my friends, Sarah, a food blogger with a decent following, asked if I would be interested in a collaboration. "You've got talent, Mike. I think we should create a cooking series together," she said, her eyes sparkling with excitement. At first, I hesitated, unsure if I wanted to share my journey with anyone else. But the idea grew on me. This could be bigger than I had imagined. It could be a way to channel my pain into something that could elevate my cooking to a wider audience. I agreed, and soon Sarah and I began filming short cooking videos showcasing my dishes. It was exhilarating. The camera added a new layer of pressure, but it also pushed me to be better. I felt alive, focused on crafting recipes that were not just meals but experiences. Each time I posted a video, the comments poured in, praising my work and encouraging me to continue. The positive feedback was intoxicating, and I found myself becoming addicted to the validation. Meanwhile, Lisa, seemingly oblivious to the changes in my life, continued with her routine. She'd come home late from work, her phone glued to her hand, and I started to wonder if she was still in contact with Nick. I had no proof, but the nagging feeling lingered. I tried to confront her about it again, but she just brushed it off. "You're being paranoid, Mike. You need to trust me," she said, rolling her eyes. I felt like I was fighting an uphill battle, but I was done playing the victim. One evening, I was flipping through cooking magazines while I waited for Lisa to come home. I came across an article featuring Nick, the chef she used to rave about. He was opening a new restaurant in town, and there was even a picture of him standing proudly in front of the kitchen, a smug smile on his face. I felt a surge of rage. This man had infiltrated my marriage, and here he was, basking in the limelight while I toiled away in the kitchen trying to reclaim my identity. That night when Lisa finally came home, I confronted her again, this time fueled by a mix of anger and determination. "Are you still seeing Nick? Is that why you're always late? Because you're at his restaurant?" I demanded, my heart racing. She shot me an incredulous look, her hands on her hips. "You're ridiculous, Mike. I can't believe you're still on this. I told you it's all work-related. You have to stop bringing this up." In that moment, I realized I was done playing the game. Lisa had made her choice, and I wasn't going to sit around waiting for her to decide to love me again. I had spent so much time trying to win her back, trying to be the husband she wanted, but now I understood that I needed to focus on myself. If she wanted to play with fire, I would show her what it meant to get burned. With that resolve, I dove deeper into my cooking, and my videos started to gain traction. I was ready to turn this pain into something powerful, something that would become my legacy. I would not only become a great cook but a force to be reckoned with, and Lisa would soon understand the depth of her betrayal. What would come next was a culinary journey that would take unexpected turns, leading to an outcome that none of us could have predicted. But I was ready for whatever came next. As my culinary journey gained momentum, so did my sense of purpose. I was no longer the passive husband waiting for a change. I was becoming someone new, stronger, more confident, and unapologetically focused on my craft. The cooking videos with Sarah became a regular thing, and our collaboration caught the eyes of local food enthusiasts. Suddenly, my social media was buzzing, and I began receiving invitations to local food events. One sunny Saturday afternoon, I found myself at a food festival, showcasing my dishes at a small booth. There was a mix of anxiety and excitement as I prepared to present my food to a crowd of strangers. I had brought my signature dish, truffle mac and cheese topped with crispy prosciutto and a sprinkle of fresh herbs, something that had become a fan favorite in my videos. The aroma wafted through the air, drawing people in, and soon I was serving up dish after dish while chatting with attendees about cooking. Amid the chatter, I spotted Lisa approaching with a group of her friends, and my heart sank. She looked radiant, seemingly carefree, laughing as she walked. When she noticed me, her smile faltered for just a moment. "Mike, I didn't know you were here," she said, feigning surprise. "Yeah, I'm showcasing my food," I replied coolly, forcing a smile. I wasn't about to let her see any vulnerability. "You should try it." She raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued but trying to maintain her composure. "I guess I will," she said, stepping forward to try a sample. I watched as she took a bite, and I noticed the look of delight on her face. For a moment, I felt a pang of nostalgia. The days when we would experiment with recipes together, the joy we'd share over a well-cooked meal. But those feelings faded quickly, replaced by the realization that this was just a taste of my revenge. "Wow, this is incredible," Lisa exclaimed, genuinely impressed. "You've really stepped up your game." "Thanks," I said, biting back the urge to add a snide remark. Instead, I played it cool. "Just trying to keep myself busy, you know." As her friends tasted my food, I caught snippets of their conversation, and it stung a bit to hear them gushing over my cooking. Lisa was no longer the center of my universe, and the tables had turned. I was the one enjoying the attention, whereas she stood back, looking somewhat lost in the crowd of my burgeoning success. After the food festival, Lisa tried to engage me in conversation, asking about my plans for the future. "You should open a restaurant, Mike. You really have a talent for this," she said, her tone a mix of admiration and envy. "Maybe," I replied, keeping my cards close to my chest. The idea of opening a restaurant had crossed my mind, but it felt like a distant goal. I had other things to focus on first. In the weeks that followed, things at home began to shift. Lisa seemed more attentive, perhaps sensing my growing independence. She started cooking dinner more often, attempting to rekindle some semblance of our old routine. I could see her trying to get involved in my newfound passion, but I wasn't interested in playing along. Every meal she prepared felt like a thinly veiled attempt to win me back, and I couldn't shake the feeling that it was too little, too late. One night, as I was experimenting with a new recipe for a zesty lemon tart, Lisa walked in, a nervous energy about her. "Can I help?" she asked, her eyes hopeful. I glanced at her, considering the request. I had spent so long building this space as my sanctuary, it felt strange to invite her in. "I've got it covered," I replied, not wanting to engage in any cooking together, especially since I wasn't sure I could trust her motives. Her face fell, and I felt a twinge of guilt. I didn't want to be cruel, but I was still reeling from the betrayal. I couldn't forget how quickly she had turned to someone else when the going got tough. It felt like a losing battle. As time passed, my social media presence surged. I was beginning to gain followers outside of my immediate circle, and my cooking videos were being shared by local influencers. I had even made connections with a few food bloggers who were interested in featuring my recipes. The momentum was exhilarating, and I was finally feeling a sense of worth that had been absent during my marriage. Then, one evening, I received a direct message from a small local restaurant that had seen my videos. They wanted to collaborate on a special event showcasing my dishes. I couldn't believe it. This was a huge opportunity to step into the culinary world I had always dreamed of. I immediately accepted, my heart racing at the thought of turning my passion into something more substantial. I shared the news with Lisa that night, expecting her to be excited for me. Instead, her reaction was unexpected. She seemed distant, almost jealous. "That's great, but what about us? You're getting so caught up in this cooking thing that you're forgetting about our life together," she said, her tone defensive. I was taken aback. "Our life? You're the one who's been distant. I'm just doing something for myself, I replied, feeling a mix of anger and frustration bubbling to the surface. What about the time we used to spend together? You're acting like you don't need me anymore, she fired back. There it was, the guilt looming over me again, but I was done feeling guilty. I had spent far too long trying to make things work while she had played with my heart. I don't think I can go back to what we had, Lisa. You made your choice and I'm moving forward, I said, my voice steady but firm. Her eyes widened, and for a brief moment I saw desperation flash across her face. But she quickly masked it, crossing her arms defiantly. Fine, do whatever you want, just don't expect me to wait around forever. With that, she stormed out of the kitchen, leaving me alone in my thoughts. I had made my decision, and from that moment on there was no turning back. My life was no longer intertwined with hers. I was ready to embrace my future, and nothing would hold me back. Little did I know that the choices I made in the coming months would further unravel the threads of our life together. But I was ready for whatever was next. My path was clear, and I was determined to follow it, even if it meant leaving her behind. The collaboration with the local restaurant kicked off a whirlwind of activity in my life. I began working closely with the chef, a seasoned professional named Laura, who had a wealth of knowledge and experience in the culinary world. She was impressed by my skill and passion, and her mentorship pushed me further than I ever thought I could go. The restaurant held special events featuring my dishes, and soon people were raving about my food. I felt a sense of pride swelling in my chest, a feeling I hadn't experienced in years. Lisa, on the other hand, watched from the sidelines, her enthusiasm for my success replaced by a growing sense of frustration. The more I flourished, the more she seemed to retract into herself. I noticed her spending more time at home, often staring at her phone or lost in thought, but she never brought it up. I wondered if she was still in contact with Nick, but I didn't dwell on it. I had come too far to let her ghost of a past dictate my present. One evening, after a particularly successful event, where I had showcased my truffle mac and cheese and a decadent chocolate tart, I returned home to find Lisa waiting for me. She was dressed up, a rare occurrence these days, and the sight of her made my heart skip a beat, though not in the way it used to. "Mike, can we talk?" she asked, her voice softening. I hesitated, unsure of what to expect. "Sure, what's on your mind?" She motioned for me to sit down, her fingers clasped tightly together. "I've been thinking a lot about us and everything that's happened. I feel like we're drifting apart and I want to fix things." My heart raced. Part of me wanted to believe her, to hope that we could patch things up, but the other part, the part that had spent months pouring his soul into cooking, reminded me of the betrayal. "You say that now, but where were you when I needed you?" I replied, trying to keep my tone neutral. "I know I messed up. I was selfish, but I've realized how much I've taken you for granted. I thought I could juggle everything, but I was wrong." She admitted, her eyes searching mine. I wanted to see sincerity, but all I felt was a mix of anger and sadness. "It's not just about you, Lisa. You can't just flip a switch and expect everything to go back to normal. I can't erase what happened." Her expression shifted, frustration bubbling beneath the surface. "I know, but can't we at least try? I miss the way things used to be." "Do you, though?" I challenged, eyebrow raised. "It feels like you miss the idea of us, not the reality." Rather than argue further, I stood up and walked towards the kitchen, seeking solace in my sanctuary. I busied myself with the remnants of the dinner I had prepared, focusing on the comforting tasks of chopping and sautéing, but Lisa followed me, her presence an unwelcome reminder of what I was trying to escape. "Mike, I'm serious," she insisted, her voice rising. "I know I messed up, but I want to make things right. I want to support you in your cooking. I want to be a part of this." I paused, knife in hand, and turned to face her. "You want to support me now, after everything? It feels like you're trying to save face because my success has made you uncomfortable." "That's not fair," she shot back, her eyes flashing with anger. "I'm trying to express that I want to be a part of your life again. I want to be there for you. Yet, you chose to be with someone else when things got tough." I retorted, my voice steady but laced with bitterness. "You only want to reintegrate into my life because you see me succeeding. Where was this enthusiasm when I needed you?" The silence stretched between us, thick with unresolved tension. I could see her grappling with her emotions, a storm brewing behind her eyes. "You're right," she finally said, her voice quieter. "I don't expect you to forgive me easily, but I really want to try. I want us to go to couples therapy to talk about things and work together." The offer hung in the air, and I felt a wave of doubt wash over me. I had spent so long rebuilding my life without her, finding joy in cooking and gaining a sense of self-worth. Did I want to open that door again? "Lisa, I don't know if I can," I admitted, my heart heavy with indecision. "I've moved on in many ways. I don't want to keep reliving this pain." She took a step closer, desperation etched across her face. "Just give it a chance, Mike, for us, for what we once had." I turned back to my cooking, losing myself in the rhythm of chopping vegetables. I couldn't bear to look at her, knowing that if I did, I might crumble. "I need time to think," I finally said, my voice strained. That night I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, the weight of Lisa's words pressing heavily on my chest. I felt torn between my anger and the nostalgia for the connection we once had. But ultimately, I was right where I wanted to be, focused on my future, my passion, my path. The next day, I received an unexpected message from Sarah, my food blogger friend. She had been following my journey closely and wanted to feature me in a video showcasing my cooking evolution. The idea ignited a spark within me. This was my moment to share my story, to inspire others, to find themselves through their passions just as I had. As I prepared for the shoot, I pushed thoughts of Lisa aside. I was ready to embrace my culinary destiny, to share my journey with the world while leaving the emotional turmoil behind. But I couldn't shake the feeling that Lisa wouldn't let go easily. She was still lurking in the shadows, and her next move could change everything. What I didn't know was just how far she was willing to go to reclaim what she once had, or if I would even want it back. The chapter of my life was opening, but the past was a stubborn ghost that wouldn't easily fade away. The day of the shoot arrived, and I could hardly contain my excitement. Sarah and I had planned a special segment where I would demonstrate my signature truffle mac and cheese, a dish that had become synonymous with my culinary journey. It was a chance not just to showcase my cooking skills, but to share the story of my transformation, a journey of heartbreak turned into passion. As the cameras rolled, I felt a rush of adrenaline. With Sarah directing, we captured the process, from selecting fresh ingredients to the final plating. I spoke candidly about my experience, how cooking became my outlet for pain and betrayal. It was cathartic, sharing the highs and lows, and I saw the way Sarah nodded in encouragement as she filmed. The response from viewers was overwhelming. Comments poured in, praising my work and commending my ability to turn adversity into something beautiful. I felt like I was finally carving out my own identity, separate from Lisa, and that feeling was intoxicating. But just as I was riding the wave of success, I received a text that shattered my momentary peace. It was from Lisa. "Can we talk? I need to explain something important," it read. My heart sank. I had hoped she would give me space, but it appeared she was not ready to let go. After the shoot, I reluctantly agreed to meet her at a small cafe, my stomach churning with anxiety. When I arrived, she was already seated, fidgeting with her hands. The weight of what I had done, finding my passion, thriving without her, loomed heavy between us. "Thanks for meeting me," she said, her voice shaky. "I know things have been rough between us, but I need to be honest about something." I nodded, bracing myself for whatever revelation would come next. "What is it?" She took a deep breath, her eyes darting around the cafe. "I've been seeing Nick again." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. My breath caught in my throat, and I struggled to maintain my composure. "What do you mean, after everything?" "I know it sounds terrible, but it just happened. He reached out, and I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't want to be alone, especially when you started pulling away," she confessed, her eyes pleading for understanding. I felt anger surge within me, mixed with a sense of betrayal that I thought I had already processed. "So instead of talking to me, you decided to go back to him. How is that supposed to make me feel better?" "I thought it would be easier for both of us," she said, her voice trembling. "But I realize now that it was a mistake. I still love you, Mike, I always have. But I was lost, and I didn't know how to reach out to you." I shook my head, fighting to keep my emotions in check. "Lisa, you can't just keep coming back and forth into my life. You can't expect me to drop everything because you suddenly decide you want me again." Her face fell, and for a moment I saw genuine regret wash over her. "I know I've messed things up. I'm sorry for hurting you. I've been trying to figure out what I want, but I see now that I want you." The cafe felt constricting, as if the walls were closing in around me. I was on the verge of a breakthrough with my cooking career, finally gaining the respect and attention I had longed for, while she was still caught in the web of her own indecision. "You need to figure your life out before you come back to me. I've spent too long trying to repair what's broken. I can't go back to being the second choice," I said, my voice strong yet filled with pain. Tears glistened in her eyes, and I watched as she fought to hold herself together. "I can change, Mike. I'll do whatever it takes to prove to you that I'm serious. This time, let's go to therapy, let's rebuild." I felt trapped in a whirlwind of emotions. On one hand, I still cared for her, but on the other, I had worked so hard to rebuild my life without her. "I need time to think," I said at last, standing up. "I can't just jump back into this." Lisa looked heartbroken as I walked away, but I couldn't linger. I needed to focus on myself, my cooking, and the possibilities that lay ahead. The next few days passed in a blur of activity. I immersed myself in my culinary endeavors, but my mind kept drifting back to Lisa. The pain of her betrayal was still fresh, but now I was filled with a mix of confusion and anger at her attempts to come back into my life. I had spent so long reclaiming my identity, and I wasn't sure if I was ready to let her back in. Then, one evening, as I sat editing videos in my kitchen, I received another message from Sarah. She wanted to discuss something exciting, an opportunity to appear on a local cooking show. My heart raced at the thought of it. This could be a game changer for me. I agreed to meet her the next day to discuss the details. As I prepared for the meeting, my thoughts were consumed with the possibilities ahead. This was my chance to step into the spotlight, to fully embrace my culinary passion. But just as I was gathering my thoughts, my phone buzzed again. Another message from Lisa. "I'm sorry to keep bothering you, but I'm going to Nick's restaurant tonight to talk to him. I need closure. I don't want to keep hanging between two worlds." A flood of conflicting emotions surged through me. Part of me felt relieved that she was seeking closure with Nick, but another part burned with jealousy at the thought of her spending time with him. I had spent so long pushing forward, and now the prospect of him lingering in the background again felt like a betrayal all over again. That night, I poured my energy into cooking, determined to distract myself from my worries. As I created a new recipe, a spicy shrimp pasta with garlic and herbs, I felt the tension ebb away. I was reclaiming my narrative, and with every chop and sauté, I felt more empowered. But as I finished plating my dish, a thought struck me. Lisa had chosen to pursue closure, but what about my own closure? The next time we spoke, I realized I needed to lay everything on the table. I wouldn't be an easy fallback option. I needed to be clear about my intentions moving forward. With that resolve, I prepared myself for whatever conversation awaited me next. I knew I had to confront the truth, not just for Lisa's sake, but for my own. I was finally ready to take a stand, not just for my culinary journey, but for my heart. What was I willing to lose, and what was I ready to fight for? I took a deep breath, knowing that the next steps would determine the course of my life. The end of one chapter was near, and a new one was ready to unfold. The next day, I had a meeting scheduled with Sarah to discuss the cooking show opportunity. As I prepared for our discussion, I felt a sense of purpose filling me. I had spent the past few months pouring my heart and soul into my cooking, and now it felt like the universe was finally aligning in my favor. When I arrived at the cafe where we were meeting, I found Sarah already seated at a table, flipping through a notebook filled with notes. She looked up and smiled brightly as I approached. "Hey, Mike, I'm so excited to talk about this opportunity." I felt the weight of my recent conversations with Lisa hanging over me, but I pushed those thoughts aside. "Me too. What do you have in mind?" Sarah explained that the local cooking show was looking for fresh talent, someone who could bring a unique story to the kitchen. They loved the angle of my journey, turning personal struggles into culinary art. The producers were eager to see me on screen, cooking and sharing my story with a wider audience. My heart raced at the thought of stepping into the spotlight, the very thing I had dreamed about for so long. We brainstormed ideas for the show, and I felt invigorated by the creative process. This was my moment to shine, to showcase my skills and share the lessons I had learned along the way. I could feel doors opening, and I was ready to walk through them. Later that evening, I received a text from Lisa. "Can we talk? I want to meet up after work." I hesitated for a moment, remembering the emotional turmoil of our last conversation, but I knew I had to address the truth between us. No more half measures, no more lingering doubts. When we met at the same cafe, I could see the tension etched on her face. She looked anxious, her eyes darting around as if searching for the right words. "Mike, I've been doing a lot of thinking." I went to the restaurant and I talked to Nick. I realized that it was never about him. It was about me not being secure in our relationship, she said, her voice trembling. I listened intently, trying to gauge her sincerity. "And what did you decide?" I asked, my heart pounding in my chest. "I think I made a mistake. I rushed into something that was never going to fill the void," she said, her voice steadying. "I want to rebuild, but I know that it's going to take time and effort. I want to show you that I can be the partner you deserve." I felt a mix of anger and sadness as I processed her words. "Lisa, it's not that simple. You can't just waltz back in and expect me to forget everything. I've worked hard to find myself without you, to reclaim my identity," I replied, my voice firm but not unkind. "I know and I respect that. I've seen how much you've grown and I'm proud of you. But I'm asking for a chance to prove myself," she said, her eyes pleading. "I want to be supportive of your culinary journey, not a hindrance." I shook my head, my heart heavy with conflict. "I appreciate that you want to be part of my life again, but I need to think about what's best for me. Right now, I'm in a good place without you, and that's not something I'm willing to jeopardize." Her expression faltered, and I saw her struggle to maintain her composure. "I understand, but I want you to know that I'm here, ready to support you. No matter what happens, I care about you." I met her gaze, feeling the weight of the moment. "You need to understand that I'm not your backup plan anymore. I've moved on from that part of my life, and I'm focused on opportunities that make me happy. I want to cultivate my passions, and I need someone who is wholeheartedly committed to being with me, not someone who keeps looking back." Tears brimmed in her eyes, but I sensed a shift in her understanding. "I won't hold you back, I promise. I just want you to know that I'm here if you ever want to talk or need support," she said softly. We parted ways that evening with an unspoken agreement. I felt lighter, like a weight had been lifted. I had set a boundary, and although I didn't know what the future held, I was ready to embrace it. My culinary career was blossoming, and I was determined to make the most of every opportunity that came my way. Over the next few weeks, the cooking show took off, and I found myself immersed in the thrill of filming, creating dishes, and sharing my story with an audience eager to connect. My social media following grew rapidly, and I received messages from people who resonated with my journey. It felt incredible to inspire others, to show them that it was possible to reinvent oneself after betrayal. As I stood in front of the camera during a shoot one day, I felt a rush of gratitude. I had transformed my pain into purpose. The lessons I learned through heartbreak had shaped me into the person I was now. In the midst of all this, I found a sense of peace. Lisa would always hold a unique place in my heart, but I realized that I was finally able to let go of the past. I was ready to move forward without her weighing me down. Reflecting on my journey, I realized that life often throws unexpected challenges our way. It's how we choose to respond that defines us. I had taken my heartbreak and transformed it into something beautiful, finding strength through my culinary passion. I learned that it's okay to prioritize oneself, and that moving forward does not mean erasing the past. It means learning from it and growing stronger. As I plated a beautiful dish for the camera, I felt a smile creep across my face. I was not just a better cook, I was a better person. I had faced my pain and risen above it, ready to embrace the future, and that was the sweetest victory of all.